Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having an amazing day, and today's video is going to be about the 5 worst things you could be doing as an artist that are keeping you from making as much progress as you could be making, and also keeping you from enjoying your artistic journey as much as you could be. This video is going to be more about mental attitudes and daily habits, and I'm going to share practical tips or advice that you can apply when you feel these things starting to come up. So before starting with item number 1 of my list, I want to take a quick moment and mention or share something with you that is extremely important to me. And I guess you could say it's part of my life philosophy or my artistic philosophy even. If you have seen more of my videos, you've probably learned this about me by now. But it's the fact that I really believe in giving yourself or taking care of yourself mentally and physically just as much as you take care of your cold artistic skills. I 100% believe that if you are able to develop a positive mindset and tackle challenges in a constructive way, and if you make time to take care of yourself physically and treasure those things that make you yourself, you're going to be able to progress artistically so much faster. Not to mention, you're probably going to find yourself having these negative habits and attitudes less and less to begin with. However, these 5 things are natural for us as human beings, and whenever we do get in these situations, we want to be able to have methods or techniques that allow us to get out of them as fast as possible so that they don't hinder our progress. And that's exactly what I'm going to be sharing at the end of each point. So let's begin with point number 1, which in my opinion is the worst of all in the list, and it's being a perfectionist. In my opinion, perfectionism is the enemy of creativity. Why? Because if you strive for perfection in every single thing you do, you are going to live life with a lot of anxiety and fear. And to be able to progress artistically, you need to be willing and actively putting yourself in situations in which you can make mistakes, in which you are continuously challenging yourself. And even though in many cases we should be striving more for quality than quantity, I think this isn't the case, especially in the beginning of an artistic journey, because you should be producing large quantities of work. You have to be producing as much as possible in order to improve. And of course they're going to be messy, of course they're going to be imperfect or ugly even, but all of that is expected. You have to be brave enough to try to do them and just do the work. Being anxious and being scared is going to hold you back, and you're not going to produce as much as you should be. Practicing and producing is what is going to give you the confidence to do more work. So it's just like a chain effect. So never be scared of a blank page or a blank canvas. Just go for it. And even if the outcome is not what you expected it to be, there's always something to learn from it, and your work is only going to improve more and more. In my opinion, art isn't perfect, and striving for perfection and chasing perfection all day is not going to make you more of an artist. Alright, so here is my practical tip for you to apply when you feel frozen and insecure and too scared to move on. So if you're in this situation, take a step back, and I recommend building up your confidence in small increments or with small studies that feel more natural to you or come easier to you, and progress slowly. If you feel like you're still lacking practicing art fundamentals, start with small sketches and work your way up to more complex drawings. You should not be jumping into something completely new right off the bat. So, just to name a random example, if I am used to creating drawings or paintings of still life, and I want to start painting or drawing portraits, instead of jumping from one to the other and right away trying to draw a complete portrait, I'm gonna create a lot of individual facial element studies before I even try to draw a complete face. Or on the other hand, if I am used to painting with watercolors and I want to start painting with oils, I am going to make sure that I create a whole bunch of exploration so that I can get to know my medium before I actually go ahead and try to make a complete composition. With every single little sketch and exploration you do, you get to know yourself more as an artist, as well as your medium and your techniques of choice, to the point that your self-confidence increases bit by bit, and you're able to tackle more complex challenges. And I also want you to know that all of those little sketches and explorations and your personal sketchbook pages are just as important than those finalized masterpieces that you're wanting to achieve. The thing here is that you rarely see those trials and errors made by other artists. Number 2 on my list is constantly comparing yourself to other artists. It's natural for us to do this from time to time, no matter how self-confident we are in our abilities. It's something human, but if you think about it, no two people in the world are the same. We have all been through different life circumstances and have been influenced by different things. We all have our own individual quirks, tastes, personalities, strengths, and weaknesses, and all of these things make us us. So learn to admire another artist's work, but never compare yourself to him or to her. You shouldn't compare your beginning to somebody else's middle. It doesn't make any sense. Not to mention, most of the time that you see other people's wonderful artwork, you don't see all of the struggle that happened in order to get there. You don't see all of the explorations and mistakes that he or she went through. As our artistic journey progresses, we get to build our skills and we get to know ourselves as artists. And if we're lucky, we get to a point at which we can develop our own art style that shows our own strengths and weaknesses. And this is great, but what happens in the beginning when you still haven't found yourself and those things that are going to set your art apart from others? So here's my practical tip and what I personally do when I feel I am comparing myself too much with other artists. So what I personally do is I limit my intake of other people's work. If you're anything like me, you have a Pinterest inspiration board that you're constantly adding to. You see amazing YouTube time lapses by super talented artists all the time. You visit art blogs, etc. What I recommend you do is set specific days of the week, maybe 1 or 2 days, in which you are absorbing all of this inspiration from others, and the other days of the week, just work on yourself, digesting all of that inspiration and turning it into your own thing. I call these periods in which I am not absorbing any outside stimuli or outside inspiration, periods of incubation, and I consider them very, very important because I find that these are moments in which you're able to really digest the information you have taken in and pinpoint what exactly it is about other people's styles that calls to you, and you start getting ideas of how you can use these things in your own way. The number 3 habit that could be hindering your artistic progress is downright copying other artists. As I previously said, there's absolutely nothing wrong with getting inspired by other artists. Whether we want to admit it or not, we're all influenced by external factors, be it somebody else's artwork, be it movies, music, even graphic design that is around you, and everything pretty much. There's also nothing wrong with you deliberately trying to copy another artist's style or technique if you're doing it with the intention of studying and keeping it to yourself. You can learn a whole ton by studying other artists' work and technique. And to be honest, I think pretty much everyone starts by imitating in some way or another. However, once you have surpassed those initial skill levels, and if you're serious about your art, you should be working on and striving towards becoming yourself as an artist and working on your own ideas and doing your best to arrive at your own style. Okay, so how do you do it? How do you get inspired by external stimuli and turn it into something that is your own? Next, guys, I'm going to give you my suggestion or what I personally do in order to ensure that I'm not copying somebody else and putting more of myself in my work and creating artwork that is actually myself, that transmits my own ideas and my own likes. So the simplest and easiest way to do this, guys, and I actually wrote a blog post describing this method thoroughly a while back, which I'm gonna make sure to leave a link below in the description box, is to take influence by a group of artists and not only one. So what I recommend you do if you find yourself creating carbon copies again and again of somebody else's work is take out a piece of paper and make a list of your 3 favorite artists. Then what you're gonna do is take 15 to 20 minutes with each of these artists and study their work individually. Make notes of the characteristics you find intriguing about each artist's artwork. So maybe it's the color scheme that they use in their work, or maybe it's the combination of different supplies, or maybe it's the way that they create very expressive looking faces. Pinpoint those specific things that call out to you about each of their work. And after you have arrived at this list, do your best to create a drawing or a painting that makes use of all of these different characteristics and combines them all into one same piece. In the blog post that I was mentioning before, I actually give you an example of how I apply this method myself and even share a finalized art piece by using characteristics in the works of 3 of my favorite artists. So make sure and check that out. So let's move on to issue number 4 that could be affecting your artistic progress. And this, guys, is being inconsistent in your practice. Now, I know how busy life gets. I know that we can be in less than ideal situations, having full-time jobs and all of these things that we have to do. But quite honestly, if your art is a priority to you, set aside time so that on a weekly basis, you are creating enough practice to ensure that you're moving forward in some way. If you don't make an effort to advance consistently, at least in small ways, maybe you don't lose the skill level that you have arrived at up to that point, but you most certainly are not going to progress. So here's my tip. If you find that you only have 15 to 20 minutes in a particular day, it doesn't matter. Use that time to create little sketches or little explorations. As I was mentioning before, these little exercises are moving you forward in small ways. But the trick here, guys, is to get that sketchbook out consistently a few times a week and at least try to do something with that time that you have. The fifth and final issue in this list that may be hindering your artistic progress is not making time for exploration. Exploration is extremely important in art. It is through exploration that we get to know ourselves as artists, our likes and dislikes in terms of techniques, subjects, and mediums. And also, we are able to expand our horizons and enhance our work. So always make sure to make time for exploration since the beginning and treasure it as a very important part of your process and enjoy it as much as possible. Now, even if an artist has already succeeded at finding his or her art style and has already arrived at his or her medium of choice and is already set in what he likes or dislikes, it is so enriching to open up your possibilities and explore other mediums. Exploring and challenging yourself with new mediums, techniques, and subjects is also a wonderful way of revitalizing yourself as an artist and refreshing yourself as an artist. So if you ever feel like you're getting bored with your work, it's a great way to reignite your passion. So here is my final tip. And please don't think that by recommending you to try a new medium or technique, it necessarily means that you have to go out and invest in a new medium or anything like that. For you, exploration might mean trying to draw portraits when you usually draw still lifes, or trying your hand at watercolors when you usually draw with ink, or maybe even collecting a few old magazines you have lying around at your house and exploring collage. All of these things count as explorations and challenges, and you learn a lot about yourself, you improve your skills, and you also arrive at ideas that you would have never arrived at otherwise. Later on, when you get back to your work, you're gonna be able to have all of these skills and ideas that are going to make it a lot better. Okay everyone, so that's it for today. I hope that you found this video helpful and that you apply these tips when you find yourself in these situations. I'd love to know which of these 5 you find most problematic, so do leave a comment below. Like this video if you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and see you next week. Bye!